Hello and welcome back to That Rugby Union podcast. You're joined by myself and shall he come out of the hiding of the Waratahs locker room and reveal himself?
What's up, Sports Booth fans? It's me, your local sex offender. This is horrific.
Alex Charlie Gamble Hughes is back. He's part. we sent a little video out asking
It's
Charlie
me,
Gamble,
Mario.
asking Charlie Gamble to follow the page, and if he did, Hughesy would get a moustache and become Mustache Brothers with the one and only Charlie. I don't know if you pull it off as well as Mr. Gamble himself, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think I do either. I feel like it's the fact that he's much better looking than I am. That probably helps him a bit.
Just a little bit.
And the fact that I have a very, very baby face. And just do not suit a mustache at all. But it is what it is. We are men of our word here at the Sports Booth on the Rugby Podcast. And look, the only issue I have with this, if any, is that the objective was for Charlie to chuck us a follow, and hopefully he's listening to this wonderful episode of the podcast. But I thought it was going to take longer. I thought it was going to take a little bit more urging. I thought, we'll get a couple of good posts and stories out of this, like, Charlie, please follow. Here's the bet and everything. Have a call out, reposted and whatnot. 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes of you posting it, he'd already said you're on. And so I mean, it's just like he is at the breakdown. First one there. Pilfering our content from us. That's just the man he is. He's just a general all-round good bloke. So thank you very much, Charlie. And I'm not allowed within 500 meters of a school.
I cannot believe it. I can't take you seriously. I seriously can't. I'll
just switch my video off for the rest of the podcast.
No, you've got to leave that on. That is too good.
You believe me, I know.
This is golden. I'm back in the great country of New Zealand, obviously. So this is why you see me with the bookshelf behind me. I feel like I'm about to tell you or sell you a course on how to do drop shipping. These bookcases behind me right here, I read all of these books 100 times.
Oh wow!
And so
that's a big throwback there.
What was his name?
Dickhead Ball Cheese or something. I don't know. Some fucking scam artist.
I'm not proud of my Lambo, but I'm proud of my
bookshelf.
My files and books that I've read. Yes, no. So that is why I'm here. It's not a fake background. These are real books. But
Luke can read, everyone. It has been confirmed.
Well, I can tell you I have officially not read a single book behind me, but
but you can read the titles. You can read the titles.
I like the ones with pictures in them. Let's just say that. Yes, a lot. I guess not a lot, and a lot to speak about of rugby at the moment. There's not a lot of news going around, not a lot of footy, unless you're in the Northern Hemisphere as we come to the end of the year. So I kind of thought, look, we'll touch base on some of the news stories, and then we'll kind of have a look back of 2022 and just think, what we saw, what we felt, what we missed, what we enjoyed, what we would change possibly. And so I mean, we've obviously started off by thanking our man Charlie Gamble, the Waratahs legend now, Sports Booth followers.
Soon to be Wallaby.
Soon to be Wallaby from Hughesy. Thank you for following the page and bringing us that love. And that image right there, that moustache, the moustache men are out in force. Maybe next podcast I'll have a moustache just to make it all three of us.
Can you grow a moustache?
Definitely not as good as Charlie, and not as good as you as well. And that's where the issue is.
Well, this is not sticking on after the podcast. I'm putting that out there now for anyone that sees me in person. This is not staying on after the podcast. This is swiftly being removed, for the reasons described before. I'd like to go out into public spaces and not have to wear a tracking device.
Yeah, I agree. I would be shaving that off as quickly as possible. You don't quite pull it off as well as Charlie, unfortunately, or even the Top Gun lads. But hey, maybe one day.
Highway to the danger zone.
let's get on to the rugby news, which there was a couple of big stories come out. New laws, and it's not so much new laws, but reinforcement of old laws was one of the big one. Was it's going to be speeding up the game is the idea.
Yes.
Much more emphasis on those 60-second conversions, 90-second penalties, one way or the other. I think it was 90-second conversions, 67-second penalties. Scrums to be there's going to be testing out a shot clock on scrums, line outs, and time wasting. All of that has just been highlighted. So all we've asked for, that's all we've asked for realistically, isn't it? We asked for those highlights, and I guess it's delivered. Like there was a big statement about it, obviously, and we'll get to discussing maybe that specific moment later. I know I've got it penciled in my year in review, but yeah, I think it was needed. They've also putting less reliance on television match official reviews. Now, it was interesting reading the articles that have come out about this. I don't mind this one. A lot of people seem to be a bit antsy about this because TMO does a good job. I think TMO for like tries and reviews when they go to review things is fine. It's when TMOs get involved without the referee.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up if you hadn't brought it up. Just the TMO review out of the blue without a referee calling for it or like a player challenge or something. Like, I think if it gets missed on the field, that's part of the game, right? You know, stuff like that happens. I don't think we need to be pulling up if an infraction is missed by the referee. You know, it's tough because a lot of times they are serious things, but I think if it's missed by the referee, that is what it is. I think for the sake of the game, they need to test it because it slows it down so much.
Yep. 100%, totally agree. Yeah. And so I'm interested to see how that one turns out. They've got fewer water carrier interventions, which I think was good. We all kind of got a bit strange that they brought this water carrier break in. I understand why, and for the health reasons, but when you had so many breaks, so what they've actually said is like, if there's no shots at goal, no tries, no actual physical breaks where there is water, then there will be interventions. If not, then they will continue to play. Penalising negative player actions, which is just they're trying to get back to the roots of the game where, you know, rugby, you've got to be a bit of a good sort to play rugby. Any dirty stuff they will get to penalising. And then another highlighted one was with the hands on the floor. They will be penalising players more harshly on that, which, funnily enough, you know, I know this is a recent law change, but it's definitely, I think, a good for the game law change. The hands on the floor. This means you just have to directly go for the ball. And Richie McCaw may have struggled a bit more of this rule change around during his time. So yeah.
Did they have anything on knockdowns?
They did. They had a couple on things on knockdowns. It was all just clarifying it, and realistically, I didn't get much clarity from it when I read everything there. I just basically, it's the same as it was. No one really knows. It's like, if they can catch the ball, then it's not a deliberate knockdown. And I'm like, well, we've been going around that circle for far too long. So, yeah, I mean, I really like the speeding up of the game. It's something we harp on about in this podcast. But the other one's interesting. Like, there's been a lot of negative. We can't keep changing the game. You adapt the game to be better, and if this is going to make the game better, then yeah, I'm all for these.
100%. You see it in all sports.
Totally agree. 2024 tours were announced, and now this is big news. Not so much, obviously, because the tour, you know, they happen every year, but because this may be the last tours before the great change, because they're looking to change World Rugby and how tours work, and there may be a World Rugby League type thing, international league that goes on, and so you may only, rather than doing a tour, rather than Ireland coming to New Zealand, you may only play, like Ireland will play Australia, New Zealand and South Africa in one go, rather than playing New Zealand 3 times. So it's quite big for that these games then, because they may be the last of a big year. So the big one is England is touring New Zealand. Last time they did that was will be 10 years ago in 2014 when we get around to it, so that'll be big. Ireland will travel to South Africa, Wales to Australia, France to Argentina, Scotland's going to the Pacific nations, and Italy are heading off to the Americas to play USA and Canada. So, I mean, some really good tours there for announcement. And yeah, you'll be looking to have hopefully a Freo tour home run after a decent World Cup, you'd be expecting.
Yeah, after a World Cup win, it'd be good to have a 3-0 tour win as well. I'm a little bit torn on that because I do have some Welsh heritage, but when Australia and Wales play, obviously I go for Australia. So, is what it is.
It is what it is. And then the last kind of couple bits of news I had here before we get into our review and our discussion on the year in review. Shannon Marizal and Richard Mo'unga from 2024 signing with Japan. Or not Japan, I should say. I think I can't even remember what team it might have been to see. Just the Toshiba team, but heading over to Japan, making the big bucks, especially someone like Mo'unga will be making a shit ton. And he's come out and said it's his duty as a father, a husband, and himself to take that money now and do it. And I don't hold anything against him. He's done his bit. He's been around 2019 World Cup, performed admirably in a defeated team, will perform well again. Going into this World Cup, I don't know if it'd still be around for the next World Cup, so you just take that opportunity while he's still got a fit and health and body to take that money. And same with Frizzell. He's been really good this last year, stepped up for that number 6 jersey. But when the money's on the table, you've got to take that. So no surprises.
It's like what we were saying last week, I believe, when we were sort of talking about Barrett and doing this kind of thing. Is the New Zealand players are starting to see what the Aussie players are doing and have done, and how they're set up better fiscally long term. And they're starting to do that. But we're seeing them doing towards the twilight of their careers, whereas I think the Aussies take that plunge still probably a little bit earlier in their career. But I reckon it'll start a trend that younger players will start doing this as well, because you just don't know how your body's going to hold up over the long term. Like, you'd be extremely lucky to get to that stage without major injuries or anything like that. So
definitely,
yeah. Look, best of luck to the both of them. I'll be very happy to not see him in Super Rugby again.
Yeah, and I mean, talking of ex-All Black who's over there running riot, Nani Lumape has been absolutely tearing it up, and this will probably be one of the bigger regrets looking back now, is letting him go, because he tore it up when he went over to State France. So he's tearing it up in the Japanese league. And I know we're talking about Japanese league, and Israel Folau scored a hat-trick as well, so don't want to leave him out. But it's maybe not the highest skill league, but it's still to be tearing up over there. It's really interesting, and I guess it will take, I think, that one youthful product to make a decision and go, I'm going to go over there at 25 years age and make a shitload of money for the next 10 years of my life, probably end up representing Japan and get even some more money, and just tick those boxes. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who does that and when they do that. But for now, it is what it is. I am going to do a bit of a breakdown. I've been building up to it, but I've got all the paperwork for a Super Rugby kind of a plan that I would do, a look into it. And I've actually seen, and I'll bring it up now, but we'll discuss it more in the new year, that there's now a Super Rugby Americas. So it was Superliga Americas, which was based out of like Argentina, all South American teams, and an American team. And I've seen Super Rugby has attached their name to it, which I think is an awesome idea to really, I guess, grow that Super Rugby product as well. And then that can just lead to the potential with the Southern Hemisphere teams. So very exciting times in Super Rugby, I think, potentially. And I'm going to give a bit of a breakdown of what I think it could look like in the coming years, and some real potential. But for now,
just while we're talking about that as well, I just want to give a shout out to my co-host Luke for the top 100 players list that's been circulating around the social media platforms. And just while we're talking about the Super Rugby plan, I hope you have part of your plan is you taking over as a social media officer for Super Rugby. I just want to some quick stats here. So Sports Booth Instagram page has got 3,000 followers, and on our post about Johnny Sexton getting the number 3 player of the year, we had 435 likes, I believe. If we go down a bit further to Will Jordan, 468. We go back even a bit further, Emiliano Boffelli, 531 likes, right? Compare that to the Super Rugby Pacific page, which has 644,000 followers, and they getting more likes. So on their Christmas post, they got 1,400. On their best international imports, they got 12,000 likes and whatnot. The ratio, though, of what Sports Booth is doing and the likes that is being generated on their post compared to Super Rugby it's just no question a win for the Sports Booth there. And that's all my co-host here, Mr. Luke Bowden. So Super Rugby Pacific, if you're listening, you need a social media manager, a marketing manager. This guy, I hope I'm pointing the right way, knows what it takes to get it done. So,
thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
controversy galore in the top 100 list, which is great. This is exactly what I wanted, was a discussion. It's funny because I knew when I selected, obviously, Sam Cane over Dalton Popoliti, I knew there was going to be ticked off people with that. Doing the same with Richie Mo'unga under Bowden Barrett, I knew there would be people annoyed by that. But I did break down some stats. I did do a lot of this. I will want to expand on it for next year and break down stats even more. Like the URC is using a stat company who is breaking down and qualifying with stats where a player ranks, and they've got Ibn Etzebeth as the number one player in the world, who's playing in the URC, only playing in the URC, so they've got to be playing in there. So, and again, that's above Josh Vanderfly, that's above Johnny Sexton, so two players who were nominated. So, again, there was that argument. That came out after I'd had done all my stats and everything, so I couldn't take that into account. But I must say, there are some very cool, so I would like to take it into a stats wise as well, but there is a lot of vibe off there as well. I do watch a lot of rugby, even though some people may say I don't watch a lot of rugby. I do watch a lot of rugby. What I do say as well, and if you're listening to the podcast, and we do love it for those listeners, if you're going to comment, if you're going to message, if you're going to judge us, just come with some backup to it. Like, I don't mind if someone says this list is shit, Johnny Sexton shouldn't be number 3. Just say why. Just a little why. Just Johnny Sexton had a terrible year. He just led Ireland to beat the All Blacks and then second in the Six Nations. Like this, you're not going to be able to back yourself up with a couple of these sayings because some people were just trying to get under my nose. But I love being argued against, and the people who argued for Ibn Etzebeth to be higher, I look back and probably gone, he probably should have been slightly higher now, because they made solid arguments, especially around him. But yeah, there are some really just weird comments where you just go, this list of shit, and it's like, okay, why? And then they have nothing, and it's like, okay. Okay, well, you obviously... So, or my favourite rebuttal is, okay, let me see your top 100, and then you'll see how much work went into my top 100, and then we can start discussing.
It's hard. I mean, I do the NFL power rankings, and that's hard enough. Like, that's only 32, and that's teams. It's not even just individual players and having to go into their individual stats and things like that. So
100%.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out the work that you've done on that, mate. It's very impressive.
Thank you. Let's get into our 2022 season in review. Now, let's start with our best moments of the year. I'm going to start with mine because I imagine it will probably come up a couple more times. But my best moment is obviously Bledisloe 1 when Geordie Barrett scores in the corner. Now, I could pretty much say, I say Geordie Barrett scored in the corner, but the whole game really was the best moment. You know, you had a Thursday night test in Melbourne. You didn't really know. Rugby was kind of on the brink. Super Rugby had been all right. Like, we had these two teams competing. The Australian teams competed. You know, the Rugby Championship was at, you know, no one knew who was going to win that. It was really competitive. It was like, maybe this is, you know, the All Blacks were on the brink. This is Australia's chance to win it. All Blacks get into a big lead. The Wallabies just start pulling them and pulling them in, take the lead. Controversy, finished by a try for the All Blacks to win. Just the absolute best moments of the year for myself.
For me, I don't think it's any surprise. I was tempted to put Charlie Gamble following the sports booth on here. But no, I put down an equally great Waratahs moment, which was the Waratahs beating the Crusaders. I'm not sure if it was the first Australian team to beat a New Zealand team this year, but it was certainly, for the Waratahs, represented very much the culmination of what Darren Coleman and the Waratahs have been preaching all year, changing the culture. A year after not winning a single game against any opponent, able to beat the eventual winners of Super Rugby Pacific 2022, and at Leichhardt Oval as well, like great ground, great venue, great crowd, and just showed what the Waratahs are capable of. And it just, hope for the future kind of thing. And just a great moment for Super Rugby this year to show that, hey, these Aussie teams, particularly the Waratahs, which is really the beating heart of Super Rugby in Australia, are back kind of thing.
100%. Great moment. It was a great moment for rugby. I think rugby was the winner on that day because anyone who beats the Crusaders is a winner in my eyes. Because fucking Crusaders. Next one, we've obviously watched a lot of rugby this season. I thought, who's a player that you've kind of sat there, and I don't want to say the best newcomer, but you think has the brightest future? It doesn't have to be someone from your team. It could be someone else. It could be anyone who you just look and you go, I see them, and 5 years' time, they're going to be a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to start us off, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of torn between two here. Obviously, this is a bit of a Charlie Gamble-centric episode, but I really think he's got a chance on the Waratahs to establish himself as a mainstay there and then work his way into the Wallaby squad. But I think it's really difficult to go past Mark Nwangani-Tawase as, look, Korobetti is sort of getting up there in age. He's not going to play another World Cup after this one, I would imagine. Right? Marky Mark is in prime position to be a great duo with him for this upcoming World Cup and then take over as that premier Australian winger that is just a force. Like we saw him during that Northern Tour and what he was able to do. Going from being on the outers of the Waratahs roster to being a star with the Waratahs to being on Australia A to then getting onto the Wallabies to then starting for the Wallabies. His future is already sort of now. He's already sort of achieved some of the bright part of it, but he can take that next step and hit superstardom, I think, in this upcoming 2023 season. Yeah,
no, I definitely phrased that question because I thought you'd pick him specifically, Marky Mark, because he's had a year to remember, and he's only young. Like he's 21, 22. So he's got a massive future ahead of him. I've actually gone in a similar steed with a winger who's 22 years old who broke through the season off the back of just about dying, which is probably the most incredible story. Vinyaya Habose, obviously the Fijian flyer, the winger for the Judah. He went over to New Zealand with the Fijian team, had a groin issue. The medical team for Fiji decided it was a groin strain when they later found out it was actually an infection he had, and had he been much later, he could have had serious injury or serious illness and death. So 8 months later, he was back playing rugby and absolutely tore it up for Fiji. The Dura this year, went overseas, was a star player for the Flying Fijians. 22 years old, like I said. I see him in 5 years' time, making multi-millions somewhere in France and playing for the Fiji at the next World Cup and just absolutely tearing up shreds. He'll be 27 at that next World Cup, and he'll be pretty special.
Yeah.
Okay. On to the next one. Obviously, again, watching a lot of rugby this year, we've seen a lot. We've just discussed the new laws. What is one change to the game you would make?
Yeah. Okay. Look, for me again. For a lot of these, I'm torn between two. Yep. Right. So I'm going to give an Australian specific answer, and then I'm going to give a rugby in general answer. So for Australia specific, I think it's no surprise to anyone the Giddo law. That's one change I would make. Straight away, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. Get rid of the Giddo law. That's very Australia specific, though, and we're talking about rugby as a whole. And I asked you this very specifically in the laws changes. I would like to see a specific law rewrite on the knockdown, right? Where instead of having it being like they have to be obviously trying to catch it, the emphasis should swing the other way, where it should be they're deliberately trying to knock it down, right? If someone sticks a hand out there to try and just get even a piece of it, because you could try and then bobble it to yourself. You don't know, like rugby balls are shaped weirdly. You don't know necessarily which way they're going to bounce. I think if you stick your hand out there to try and get a piece of it, to try and just catch the ball or make something happen with it, I think that's fine. I think when it's like a downward slapping motion or something like that, or a kind of real, instead of an arm stick out, it's like an arm slap out or something like that, where it's very obvious that there's no attempt here to create anything out of the ball, it's just an attempt to kill the ball, that's when you have the yellow card. When it's just an otherwise a knock on, it's a knock on. And I think that's a really key change. We've seen coaches on all sides come out and say that there needs to be a change to that law. And so that would be a big change that I would make, because it's just such a silly part of the game, kills momentum, wastes time, takes away from on-the-field action. Everything that's wrong with rugby can be encapsulated by that law.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. My one may be a little bit controversial, but I'm doing this because I think, again...
That's what you're known for.
It'll be greater for the game. I have gone with changing the value of penalties and drop goals to 2 points.
Ooh.
Now,
Yeah.
people will go, oh, that's very rugby league, rah, rah, rah. I'm not bothered by that. What I'm trying to achieve here is less penalty shots and less... I think if you... Like, the reason I say and drop goals is because I think if you change penalty shots, then we'll see an increase in drop goals. And I don't want to see an increase in drop goals. That's not the aim of this. The aim of this is to see more attacking rugby. So that's what I would do. If I could think of a good one, and I sat here for a while trying to think of one for how to change the maul situation, I would, but I don't know. The only one I'd say is it's just one warning and use it. There's no two warnings. It's not hey, you've got one. It's just one. But I would prefer to see... I would look like the bigger change for attacking rugby. I just think this would, in the end, lead to more mauls and this and that if we did go down that route as well. So I'd they're hand-in-hand changes. I'd like to see both of them.
I think as well, you look at just the number value of it, right? You kick 3 penalties, that's 9 points, right? And that's more than one possession game kind of thing. Like a converted try doesn't do anything for you there. 2 points for a penalty, you get 3 penalties, that's 6 points. That still puts you ahead by a try, but not more than a converted try, right? And I think that's a really nice balance there. So, and where I think that's different from rugby league, and a key area that is different from rugby league, is that in rugby league, 3 penalties equals a converted try. You are equal to the converted try there. Whereas in union, it would be you are greater than a try, but less than a converted try. And that puts more emphasis on tries and converted tries, which is what we want at the end of the day for rugby.
100%, totally. And
tries
I think
sell tickets.
They do. And I think you'd still get those Johnny Wilkinson moments with a drop goal and being 2 points, because it's, like a 3 point drop. Yeah, to me, it just makes sense. So, that would be one I would change. Now, let's go on to one change you'd make from the past year in the rugby sense. So, this could be, hey, if you're a Crusaders fan, A, you suck, and B, you would obviously change the fact that you lost to the Waratahs. If you wouldn't you change the fact that you're a Crusaders fan? Like, that's what I would change. I agree, totally agree. If you're a Brumbies fan, you would probably change the fact that, I don't know who it was, the referee didn't call that penalty, and then the Blues got to kick the drop goal.
Disgusting.
If the head of World Rugby, I'd probably change the fact that Ardie Savea wasn't nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year. Anything in the world. Hughesy, what are you changing? Oh, sorry, Charlie Gamble, what are you changing?
Yeah, look, I'm half tempted to change what I said last week and just go with your original dare, which was if Charlie leads us to a win, just get the mustache then, because this was far too easy. No, look, this one's actually really tough, because as a Wallabies fan, there are so many one moments of the year that we'd want to change that were just little things that let us down. End of the game against France springs to mind. End of the game against Italy springs to mind as well. But I think the one that we definitely would have to change, if we had to rank them all, would be the ending to Bledisloe 1. Would just be Bernard Foley, kick it out 1 second faster, completely different result of the game, and a completely different outlook on the season. And that can affect momentum going forward, all sorts of things. I think that's the big one to change. Look, there are moments all across the year that I wish I could change. Darcy Swain not headbutting the English second row.
Johnny Hill,
I was going to call him Johnny Mullet, but I was close. Johnny Mullet or Johnny Sins, one of the two. I get mixed up. But I think the ending to Bledisloe 1 has to be up there.
Yeah, I tend to agree that was a tough one for any Australian.
That or the end of the Waratahs Hurricanes game changed. Just get rid of the second half of the game. Just go based off the first half. Call the game.
Well, I've got a few in my head that I've kind of ticked up. Obviously, one's funny enough. You mentioned Darcy Swain. Is Darcy Swain taking out Quintapai for 8 months? Possibly more, 10 months. So he'll be pushing to try and get back for the World Cup, but unlikely. TJ Perenara came back into form at the end of the season, got an All Blacks recall just to do his R. Kelly, so he'll be pushing to get back. I'm sure you'd be the same.
His R. Kelly, did you say?
Achilles?
Yeah.
Didn't pronounce.
Oh, yeah, Achilles. Achilles. This is like his R. Kelly. Bounce. I shouldn't say that while I'm wearing this mustache.
No, yeah,
that is really shouldn't do that.
Digging yourself a hole.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I'm sure you'll be right on the bandwagon for injuries with your Australian team
up there. Yeah. There's quite a number of them.
Yeah, but I think if I could change a specific moment, or I'm going to say 10 minutes, it's been up 25-3 against England to then just capitulate to a 25-all draw. You don't get many chances to go to Twickenham and win in Twickenham, and when you do, you've got to take them and to play as well as we did for 70 or 68, 69 minutes and then capitulate the way we did as an All Blacks team. That was tough to watch. It felt like we were getting a bit of revenge back on them. We're going to stab, the knife back into them, but we blew that as an All Blacks fan. That was a tough watch.
Very much so.
Now, to finish off this podcast, we'll probably touch more on this, but I just want to say, obviously, second to last day of 2022. So a bold prediction or predictions looking into 2023. So we're going to do 2 predictions, and that's it on this podcast. One bold prediction, and then one prediction for who you think is going to win the Rugby World Cup. This may change by the next time we actually do our full prediction video. But you can't choose your own team. So I can't choose the All Blacks. Hughesy can't choose the Wallabies. So start with whatever one you choose. You can start with one, and then I'll go from there.
Okay, my prediction for who will win the World Cup, if not for my own team, I would say it's probably an easy one here. This is not the bold prediction, but I'd say France, because it's in their home country. They're in a bit of form at the moment. I think sort of things are sort of lining up for them nicely at the moment.
Nice, yeah. I am going to pick South Africa as the team I think will win it. Now, again,
always between was those two.
It's an easy choice because they perform really well at World Cups. I think the way they finished last year, they're right there with every team in the world. They can beat any team in the world on their day if they play South African rugby ball. As they play South Africa ball, they are unstoppable, and we've seen it. We, hands down, we've admired it, I'd say. It's not the prettiest rugby, but when you get it right like they do, it doesn't... Hey, fuck, you don't have to play pretty rugby.
It's the fact that everyone knows what's coming and they still pull it off anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got South Africa. I think they can do it. I think they're positioned really well with the talent they've got to push towards there. So that's mine. A bold prediction I have. This is hugely bold. All right. So bold, I can't believe I'm saying it. The Melbourne Rebels make the semi-finals of Super Rugby.
Wow. That is a very bold prediction indeed. Not just the finals, but to make the semi-finals.
Semi-finals, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that because they, realistically, when they end up on the ladder, they play probably Hurricanes first round. They can easy.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking more they probably play the Waratahs for 5th playoff, and then they beat the Waratahs, and off they go.
No, because Waratahs finishing top of the ladder, so...
they finished 4th.
Yeah.
And then they play 5th, who the Rebels might finish 5th.
I don't think so. I don't think that. I gotta say. I mean, look, that's not. I don't think that. Saying that the Rebels would beat the Waratahs, I don't think is that bold of a prediction. I think that's seen to happen. To say that they make the semi-final though is a bold prediction.
It is.
For my mind, bold prediction for 2022. Actually, let me check something for 2023. I should say now. Let me check my information here. Okay. I have a very bold prediction indeed. England do not make it out of the pool stage at the Rugby World Cup.
Is that a bold prediction?
I mean, yeah, Japan. The group is England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa, Chile. Right?
Definitely, that's a bold prediction. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that would mean that Japan and Argentina would have to beat them.
Beat them massive.
In the Northern Hemisphere.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. That would be huge. It would be Eddie Jones, lick your lips, have a laugh, have a good time. Wow. So yeah, I mean, we will definitely probably on the next podcast, the next time we come together, do a bit more predictions, a bit more look into the future of 2023, see what we can find, see what goodies are out there. Because, yeah, I think we are in for a hell of a year next year in rugby terms. Super Rugby back better than ever. We've got a better TV deal for you Aussies as well, looking ahead. We've got, the NRL on the fritz of a potential player lockout, which would be a huge, I guess, a little win for rugby. You don't want other sports failing. Like, I don't want rugby league to fail. But we are obviously a rugby union supporters. But yeah, that could cause a bit of controversy, a bit of interest in rugby to peak a little bit. They could make good with that. A Rugby World Cup, a Rugby Championship, the bleed is slow. It's all on next year. It's going to be a hell of a year. We'll be here covering it. Me and Alex, Charlie Gamble, Hughes, obviously. Yuck. Oh, never did that again. Oh, my God. And we'll make sure we try not to call too many other professional athletes out to do stupid things because we'll end up looking like you.
Well, yeah, no, I actually heard that, Luke, you have challenged Ellis Genge to run one at him if he follows the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'll do a run it straight challenge with Ellis Genge if he follows the podcast. I'll tag him in that and I'll do it because he lives in England and there's a very good chance it won't be happening anytime soon. But
you can take out the life insurance before then.
Jesus, yeah, exactly. Imagine he ran over Samu Karevi. Like, what chances am I going to stand?
Yeah, none, not at all, my friend. And then I mean, you had something about about trying to tackle Marika Korobetti. I think that's after the Genge one.
Now you're talking shit. I'll take one death by Genge and that'll be enough for me. But for now, that is us done. That is rugby for 2022 done. Make sure you're following us on all of the platforms. We'll be back again better than ever next year. A lot more content to come. Mustache. No more mustache for Hughesy. Hopefully we'll get some players involved as well. Get some players on here. Do some interviews. Do some really cool things. So a lot more to come next year. Stay with us. Stay tuned. For now, thank you for joining us for 2022 and this podcast. We'll see you later.
Peace.